Shalom Yasha Allah. First and foremost, we get all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. The balance to our apostles and elders, a great millstone who grew well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that puts this great gospel of sincerity and truth. It's your brother Hezekiah Yahweh from the great millstone, Indianapolis camp. Coming at you another lesson through the spirit and the power of Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai. And Lord willing, be edifying. Got a couple articles from CNN, and I think another one from Yahoo. So, no without further ado, we're just gonna get into it. This is it reads collapsed India bridge that killed 134 was recently repaired. Officials say. Now, of course, now this came out Monday, October 31st, 2022, of the year Yahweh Mashai turned it up. Now, of course, this was like a couple of weeks ago, but still relevant today because as we're seeing, each and every day that Yahweh is bringing forth his judgment. So it says New Delhi, whatever. It says the death toll has risen to 134 after a suspension bridge collapsed in India's western state of the Gujarat on Sunday as authorities revealed the structure had only recently reopened following repairs. The Gujarat Home Minister Harsh Sanghavi said Monday some 200 people are estimated to have been on the bridge in the town of the Morbi when it collapsed into the river below on Sunday evening. A cable at one end appears to have snapped, he added. The victim includes 30 children, district officials told CNN on Monday. A total of 170 people have been rescued so far, according to Vishal Kanjaria, an administrative official for Morbi district. Some remain in hospital and others have returned home, though an exact breakdown is not yet known. The state of the Gujarat has lodged a criminal complaint against the agency that was handling the maintenance of the 230-meter-long bridge, which was built in the 19th century and reopened last week after renovations, he said. Photos from the scene Monday showed people gathering on the bank of the river Makshu, whatever. Besides the mangled metal walkway, which hung at a sharp angle into the water, where rescue workers in inflatable dinghies search for survivors. A 5-person special investigation committee has been established to investigate the incident, Sanghavi said, amid an ongoing search and rescue operation by hundreds of personnel from state and national disaster relief teams and the Indian military. So it says, speaking at a news conference in the early hours of Monday, Sanghavi did not say how many people are missing, but social media videos showed dozens in the water following the collapse of the bridge. The TV footage showed people holding the cables and remains of the bridge as emergency teams tried to reach them, Reuters reported. Some climbed up the wrecked structure to reach the riverbanks, while others swam to safety. Speaking later on Monday, senior police official Ashok Yadav said 7 of the injured are still in hospital, while 56 people have been discharged after receiving treatment. The families of the victims will receive compensation from the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund, according to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Speaking Monday at a campaign event ahead of state-level elections in Gujarat, Modi said his heart is filled with love and is with the families of those suffering. The state government has set up a committee to investigate the incident. I assure the people of the country that there will be nothing lacking in the relief and rescue efforts, Modi said. Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel said the state government would provide the equivalent of about $5,000 in compensation per family of deceased and about $600 each for the injured. I express my condolences to the families of the citizens who lost their lives in the tragedy, right? So, it's one article of judgment, like I said, as 134 people, and, I know most probably heard about this around the time of, Halloween, but hey, we understand at that time that's a great time of great sacrifices ultimately that's been done on the left-hand side. So could this have been a part of it? Hey, it sounds a little, strange that it was just renovated, but then what collapsed? But even at the end of the day, we know that that was due to Yahweh Bashim Shai. So, I mean, who knows what they were all leading to do. Like I said, they in India, so, we got a great number of our people over there that's doing what, following after abominable, traditions, religions, mannerisms of life and so forth and so on. And hey, you pay that price. Like scripture say, the wages of sin is death. Lord, we get that. But without further ado, going to the next article, which is what? Seoul crowd disaster leaves South Korea reeling as death toll rises to 154. Now, this came out October 30th, 2022, the year Yahweh Shemashai turned it up. It says South Korean authorities are investigating the crowd surge that killed at least 154 partygoers in Seoul as the rattled nation attempts to come to terms with one of its worst ever disasters. The country has begun a week-long period of mourning while officials attempt to understand how the devastating crush took place. At least 26 foreign nationals, including two U.S. citizens, are among the dead. More than a dozen embassies around the globe have confirmed victims from their country. What caused Saturday's surge is unclear, but witnesses said partygoers were packed tightly into a narrow street in the capital's nightlife district of, what's that, Itaewon, as people enjoy the first Halloween weekend. See, look, they was doing what? Following after a abominable, wicked, a wicked, unholy day. That's what I call them. But that, they was all getting together, partygoers getting ready to do what? Give their sacrifice, what? To Satan. And ultimately, what happened to them? By following this abomination, death and destruction come to pass. Because as we speak, you have to understand that Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and then we always speak about the Israelite foreigners or the speckled bird. These are Israelites who may look like the heathens because they were scattered amongst them due to the curses, but they see line go back to the 12 tribes of Israel. So you had to give or take out of these 150 people, even the 134 people in that India bridge crash, who like through the spirit, I believe at least one of them or a few of them was what? Jake's. Likewise over here as well. So it's like, judgment don't just be random or for no reason. It's for the wickedness, the iniquity that people live by, right? It says, so again, they was all getting ready, for Halloween, right? It says, as people enjoy the first Halloween weekend since crown restrictions were lifted, nearly all the victims, at least 150, have been identified, police told CNN. The toll included 56 men and 97 women. South Korea's Interior and Safety Ministry reported. South Korea's Ministry of Education said Monday that six school students were among the dead, including one in middle school. 3 teachers also died. As of 5 p.m. local time Sunday, the number of people, now remember this is in October, so it's an article from 2 weeks ago. Say the number of people injured has risen to 133, of whom 37 were seriously injured. The ministry said. It says there were rows and rows of people with tarps covering them in the street. Emily Farmer, a 27-year-old English teacher in Seoul who was passing through Itaewon, told CNN, and it said Farmer and her friends were overwhelmed by the crowds on the street and decided to enter a bar shortly after rumors started spreading that somebody had died and patrons were not allowed to leave. Farmer said she received an emergency message from the government alerting them to a dangerous situation in the area, and later was allowed to leave the bar when she discovered the scale of the tragedy. It was horrible, she said. Not everyone died instantly. Groups of people were crying, she added. Many victims were receiving CPR and had their costumes taken off to allow medics at the scene to resuscitate, I believe, them. It says they were still pulling people out because it was so crowded, she added. Another eyewitness, Sung Seyun, told CNN that the street space was like a jammed subway on Saturday evening, with Halloween partygoers packed so tightly that it was difficult to move around. It says, Su Cho added that people had started to push and shove, and there was a lot of screaming. She eventually managed to take a detour and fled to safety, but had seen people climbing buildings to survive. She added that the costumes people were wearing added to the confusion. There was also a police officer screaming, but we couldn't really tell if it was a real police officer because so many people were wearing costumes. Witnesses told CNN there was very little, if any, crowd control before the mass of people turned deadly. Videos and photos posted to social media show people crammed together, standing shoulder to shoulder in the narrow street. Crowds are not unusual for that area or for Seoul residents who are used to jam-packed subways and streets in a city of almost 10 million people. After the first emergency calls came in around 10:24 p.m., authorities rushed to the scene, but the sheer volume of people made it difficult to reach those who needed help. Video posted to social media showed people performing compressions on other partygoers lying on the ground as they waited for medical assistance. A number of countries, including the U.S., China, Iran, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Japan, Australia, Norway, and France, have confirmed that their nationals were among the victims. Right? It says a University of Kentucky Nursing student is among the dead, according to the statement from University President Eli Capilioto, whatever, and Jisk, and a junior from Northern Kentucky, was studying abroad in Seoul this semester. Capilioto said, I think that's how you say his name. It says 3 South Korean military personnel was also among those killed. A Korean defense minister told CNN the South Korean government has set a national mourning period starting until the end of November 5th. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said in a briefing during the mourning period, all public institutions and diplomatic offices will fly flags at half-staff. Han said, adding that all non-urgent events will be postponed. Civil servants and employees of public institutions will wear ribbons to express their condolences during the mourning period, Han said. So, here's another, article on what? Mass judgment. Right? This got 154 people. And then it said, 133 were injured. So, ultimately, close to 100, 300 people was involved in this tragedy, as they called it. Right? And then we got one more right here. And let's see. It should be. And they can fly through it. A little press for time. Jay got to go to sleep, but like I said, this works come first. So, this is an article from Yahoo, and it reads, over 100 dead, dozens missing in storm-ravaged Philippines. This also came out October 30th, 2022. Here, Bashima turn it up. And it reads, Manila, Philippines. More than 100 people have died in one of the most destructive storms to last the Philippines this year, with dozens more feared missing after villagers fled in the wrong direction and got buried in a boulder-laden mudslide. Almost 2 million others were swamped by floods in several provinces, officials said Monday. At least 53 of 105 people who died, mostly in flash floods and landslides, were from the Maguindanao province in the Muslim, autonomous region, which was swamped by unusually heavy rain set off by tropical storm Nalgae. The storm blew out into the South China Sea on Sunday, leaving a trail of destruction in a large swath of the archipelago. A large contingent of rescuers were with bulldozers. Okay, I thought it said bulldozers, but no, with bulldozers, backhoes, and sniffer dogs resumed retrieval work in southern Kushiong village in Hardhead, Maguindanao, whereas as many as 80 to 100 people, including entire families, are feared to have been buried by a boulder-laden mudslide or swept away by flash floods that started overnight Thursday, said Naguib Sanarimbo, the interior minister from the Bangsamoro autonomous region run by former separatist guerrillas under a peace pact. And I want to make mention of this too. I looked into some things within the Philippines, and you see the mannerisms, how the people act, how they can dance, how they move for the most part. I'm not saying everybody, them straight up jakes over there, But just making mention of that, as far as these judgments going out, because he gonna, judge his people first. They say the government's main disaster response agency said there were at least 98 storm deaths, and 7 other fatalities were later reported by 3 provincial governors. At least 69 people were injured and 63 others remain missing. About 1.9 million people were lashed by the storms, including more than 975,000 villagers who fled to evacuation centers or homes of relatives. At least 4,100 homes and 16,260 hectare acres of rice and other crops were damaged by floodwaters at the time when the country was bracing for a looming food crisis because of global supply disruptions. The official said. Senator Rimbo said the official tally of missing people did not include most of them feared missing in the huge mudslide that hit Kusiyong Casillonia, I think, because entire families may have been buried and no member was left to provide names and details to authorities. The catastrophe in Kusiyang, populated mostly by the Tejure ethnic minority group, was particularly tragic because it's more than 2,000 villagers. And normally, when it speaks about minority groups, normally those minority groups were those be treated as outcasts or the scurrying, pretty much like the outcasts within the country or the case may be. Normally they go back to us. Normally, So it says because it's more than 2,000 villagers have carried out disaster preparedness drills every year for decades to brace for a tsunami because of a deadly history, but they were not as prepared for the danger that could come from Mount Manandar, where the village lies at the foothills, Senarimbo said. When the people heard the warning bells, they ran up and gathered in the church. This is definitely going to help you on the high ground, right? Which Senarimbo told the Associated Press on Saturday, citing accounts by Kusiyong villagers. The problem was it was not a tsunami that inundated them, but a big volume of water and mud that came down from the mountain, he said. In August, like in 1976, an 8.1 magnitude earthquake and a tsunami in the Moro Gulf that struck around midnight left thousands of people dead and devastated coastal provinces in one of the deadliest natural disasters in Philippine history. Line between the Moro Gulf and 446 meters, or 1,464 foot, Mount Menendor, Kusiyong was among the hardest hit by the 1976 catastrophe. The village never forgot the tragedy. Elderly villagers who survived the tsunami and powerful earthquake passed on the nightmare stories to their children and warned them to be prepared. Every year they hold drills to brace for a tsunami. Somebody was assigned to bang the alarm bells, and they designated high grounds where people should run to. Senarimbo said, villagers were even taught the sound of an approaching big wave based on the recollection of the tsunami survivors, but there wasn't as much focus on the geohazards of the mountainside, he said. There were more than 100 rescuers from the Army, police, and volunteers from other provinces Saturday in Kusiyong, but they were unable to dig at a spot where survivors said the church lay underneath. The church got buried by that mud, they say, because the muddy mound was still dangerously soft, officials said. A Coast Guard video provided to media on Monday showed some of its men helping search for buried bodies in Kusiyong by poking long wooden sticks into the mud, the light brown sludge. The stormy weather is a large swath of the country hindered transportation as millions of Filipinos plan to travel over a long weekend for visits to relatives, tombs, and for family reunions on All Saints Day. See, they want to do that. What's All Saints Day? I think it's November 1st, and I think All Souls Day is on November 2nd. Or I could have them, backwards. But All Saints Day in the largely Roman Catholic nation. See, nearly 200 domestic and international. So no wonder this happened to them. No, nearly 200 domestic and international flights were canceled. Manila's international airport was briefly closed amid stormy weather, and voyages in storm-whipped seas were prohibited by the Coast Guard, stranding thousands of passengers. Flood waters swamped many provinces and cities, trapping some people on their roofs. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. inspected the extent of damage about a helicopter over Cavite province Monday and later handed boxes of food and other supplies to storm victims in Noveleta town, where some residents were trapped on their roofs at the height of the flooding over the weekend. The powerful surge of water destroyed the flood control, so there was so much flooding, he told a news conference. About 20 typhoons and storms batter the Philippines archipelago each year. It is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region along most of the Pacific Ocean rim where many volcanic eruptions and earthquakes occur, making the nation one of the world's most disaster prone. Yeah, and that Ring of Fire ain't no joke. Also, like, it definitely, they have a lot of tsunamis around that area as well. But, again, like I said, over 100 dead and dozens missing in storm ravaged Philippines. So, that's pretty much all that I got in regards to that. Like I said, don't want to make it too long, but hey, we're just gonna hit the points because, man, it's judgment. It's running rampant, to and fro the earth each and every day, right? As the scriptures say, this is Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 5. The just Lord, right? The just, the righteous Lord, right? Yahweh Shemashai is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. So he don't do iniquity. He don't do wickedness. Everything that he do is just and right, whether it may seem good to you or evil. Right? It say every morning do if he bring his judgment to light. Every single day, judgment is going out. Whether somebody's dying, whether somebody's being injured, whatever the case may be, judgment is going out. It says he faileth not. So he's not going to fail when it comes to judgment. He's not going to sleep. He's not going to slumber. You know what I'm saying? Like the scripture say, the Lord is not slacking concerning his promise. Right? So if he say, if you live this type of way and you continue to live a way of sin and iniquity, you're going to be paid back for it. Well, guess what? That time period going to come where what? You're going to be destroyed. Right? Unless you repent. But if you slide to be destroyed, you know, it's written all in his movie anyway, then that's just going to happen to you. Right? But they say, but the unjust know no shame. See, here's the thing. A lot of those deaths happened during the time of Halloween and All Saints and All Souls Day. And there was also judgments that happened over here as well in Babylon the Great. And a lot of those people, whether they, you know, hey, it's camp, hey, it's a camp over there with some brothers over there in the Philippines preaching the gospel in the names of Yahweh Shemel Shai. You know, all praise to Yahweh Shemel Shai for that. Right? You got where's that? In South Korea, you know, the other place in India. You can't tell me that none of those people in South Korea, none of those people in India have heard anything or seen anything in regards to the truth. You definitely can't say that. Right? They see it, you know, they see it in their own language. They may mock at it, scoff at whatever the case may be, but the truth is out there, right? You know, people know, and you can look up stuff too. You can look up if celebrating Halloween is a righteous thing or if it's wicked or this or that. And people will look it up and see like what it all pertains to, who it shows homage to, and they still follow it, just like our people. That's why I say what the unjust know no shame. You try to reprimand them or correct them or reprove them so that they don't be destroyed. What they do, oh, I don't want to hear that. No, I've been doing this all my life. Ain't nothing happened to you. They don't know no shame. So what happens? Ultimately, they get put to death because they was being disobedient and forsook the message of the prophets of Yahweh Shemel Shai, not knowing that it's the Lord speaking through those men. But in the same breath, they say, well, that they believe in God, right? You know, we know Jake be full of shit. You know, so like I said, it's the just Lord, right? That's in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning do if he bring his judgment to light, he faileth not, but the unjust Lord no shame, right? And that was Zephaniah 3 and 5. And you know what I'm saying? Like I said, terrible and evil thing. But there's a horrible thing that happened, right? And what they say, it was just horrible. It's a tragic catastrophe. I'm with the families, give them all $5,000 a piece. This is Amos chapter 3, verse 6. Because I mean, I don't know how much funeral costs are over there, but whatever. This is Amos chapter 3, verse 6. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Right? And we understand that main trumpet is being blown throughout the whole entire earth via the World Wide Web, being what? This truth, right? And the people be not afraid, shall there be evil or bad times in a city, and the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai have not done it, right? This is the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai taking credit of the evil and bad times that come to a people or a nation or a city, whatever the case may be. But we just read that the just Lord will not do iniquity. So these people earned this judgment, right? It says, as a matter of fact, the Lord have not done it. It said they earned it, right? And I had quoted this. I remember saying like these people died. They Muslims. These people died Roman Catholic, right? These people were celebrating Halloween and all this and that. That's all equated to what? Transgressor of the law, which is what? Sin. So this is what you earn. The Romans chapter 6, verse 23. For the wages of sin is death. When you working that, you punching the clock, so to speak, and you put in that overtime and working them hours of sin and iniquity, guess what your wage is going to be? Guess what you're going to earn? Death, right? Because that's the works of your hands. That's the action that you commit, right? It say what? But the gift of Yahweh Shemel Shai is eternal life through who? Yahweh Shai HaMashiach our Lord. Now ask yourself, was Yahweh Shai HaMashiach celebrating Christmas? Said, was he celebrating Halloween? And I bring this up too because what's coming up next? What they call Turkey Day, Thanksgiving. Was he celebrating that stuff? No, he wasn't doing that. Right? Eating abominations and all this and that. No, he was not doing that. So to follow after his example, be what? Follow the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. in truth, because some people may, hey, they may, like the scripture say, become a law to themselves. Some people may follow the laws, well, if our people may follow the laws, not knowing that they are keeping, are following it to a T, but at the same time, they are still justified doing wickedness. So they say, well, I won't do this, but I'm going to do that. Hey, well, you just sin and transgress. That's worthy of death. But as it's saying, man, you live that sinful lifestyle, it tell you will die. At the end of the day, just like it was saying, they like to always bring up, well, and 8 children died too, as if like as if the Lord give pass to the children. Like, no, like they can get it too. This is Job chapter 4 verse 7. Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished, being innocent, right? Or where were the righteous cut off? So anybody who has perished, just believe in the grand scheme of things, they was not innocent. Remember, our ancients our spirits, Salakia, are ancient, right? We done been here in times past. People done commit sin and iniquity in times past, right? Or even in this life as well. As the scripture say, all have fallen short, of the glory of Yahweh Shemashai. If we paraphrase, and that's talking about who, you Israelites. So how much more the heathens who wasn't even given the law, such commandments? They definitely done. They came there, definitely fell way beneath, the Israelites. But the ones who matter are the Israelites, right? So guess what? With that being said, as he say, you only of all the families of the earth have I known, therefore I will punish you for your iniquities. That's what Amos 3 speaks about. Right, so remember, say, whoever I pray thee, whoever prepares to be innocent. Oh, little JoJo and little Kelly, and they were only 2 and 3. They were so innocent. The Lord said they wasn't, or they'd be alive still. It say, even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. So yeah, you live a sinful lifestyle. You plant those seeds of wickedness in the ground. Hey, when you go to the ground to reap it up, guess what? You get wickedness. You get evil, and that was just what we went over earlier. That the wages of sin is death. Pretty much, you live in that lifestyle, you planting death in the ground. When it's time for you to reap that harvest, guess what? You're going to die, right? So it's again, even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. You get the same thing that you put in, right? By the blast of the Most High they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed. And that's what happens to people. They get consumed by Yahweh Shemashai for their sins and their iniquity. Again, let me read this real quick, because people are like, that's not right. Why would the Lord, no, that was Satan. Why would the Lord kill the kids like that? Well, pull it right here. We just gonna get to the point. Just peep this right here. This is, I'm just gonna keep it, get to the point. This Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 5. To give you to understand, he's speaking to the angels, right? It say. So, in the first portion, verse 4 speaks about setting that mark of exemption on the true believers, ultimately the elect of the nation of Israel. But then the latter is going to be, the 2/3, over here in Babylon Great, and just the rest of the, the wicked jakes around the world. And then also the heathens as well. Say, and to the others, he said in my hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite, and let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity, right? They say, what? Slay utterly old and young, both maids and what else? Little children. So yes, the little children are not exempt from judgment. I just want to make that point. And woman, right? But come not near any man. Look, hey, I think in that one judgment said what? It was like 57 men died and 97 women. Yeah, they're not exempt as well, right? But come not near any man upon whom is the mark or the Thawa, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they begin at the ancient men which were before the house. Because ultimately, again, judgment begins at the house of Yahweh Shem Shai, especially of those who know, and then then it's going to trickle down to those who, in a sense, don't know. But they didn't heard, but they don't ultimately know the ways, because why the Lord didn't sup with them to bring the man full surface. They may know that they're Israelite, but just know that you're Israelite don't mean you're going to be saved, right? That's just ultimately going to bring more stripes to your back, because you're not going to live according to the way that Yahweh Shem Shai has established us to live by, right? That's why I just want to make that quick point on that, So I definitely don't want to make it too long. We going to get this, because like I said, these people was living, iniquity, So it say what? Psalm chapter 9 verse 16. The Lord Yahweh Shem Shai is known by the judgment which he executeth. So it's Yahweh Shem Shai to execute this judgment, right? He's the one that issued it out, declared it, whatever have you want to cut the pie, so to speak. It was him behind the judgments of these people. It say the wicked is snared in the works of his own hands. What was the things that these people were doing in their works? Well, the people in the Philippines, like I said, they follow other various religions. And they said, well, the predominantly Roman Catholic religion, what they say, the people went and hid in the church. And what happened to them? The whole church got buried under mud, by landslide, by mud. You know what I'm saying? So where was Jesus at? Why didn't he save y'all? Why didn't he help y'all? Because he doesn't exist. Part of the reason why you die is because why you're worshiping after a false idol. If they was Israelites, in there. You get what I'm saying? Which I definitely believe it was. Right? What about the other people? In India. A lot of Indians, they got a good branch of that worship Islam. You got a good branch of that worship just the Hindu, like the Hindu pantheon, the Hindu deities or whatever in India. Where was they at to save y'all? All those guys that they had, where was they at to save y'all? Nowhere, because why? They don't exist. So the Jakes who was over there falling to that don't exist. They know now. They say while they're in the spirit world. What else? Say all. Some people was what? They was over there celebrating Halloween. Well, that was a wicked, unholy day that ultimately paid homage to who? Satan. And guess what? And all these other wicked ass side wind, gods, whatever the case may be. And guess what? That was part of the wickedness, and that was a part of the snare. That's part of the works of their own hands. Therefore, what happened to them? They got put to death. Right? So again, it said the wicked is snared in the works of his own hands. Higgyah say lie. Because, yeah, you fall after, ultimately, you commit idolatry against Yahweh Bashim Yashai, thou will be put to death. He said to have no gods before him. So he supposed to be worshiping no other God. But that's what these people do, right? They know it or not. Everybody can look up, use their phone to look this up. There's a pair of shoes they want to look up plane tickets to go this place. But you can't look up the origins of what you may be following. You can't look up, like, what may be unlawful to eat, what not to do. So you can't look these things up, but you can look at all this other carnal stuff. Well, guess what? And your ignorance, you get put to death. So, and sometimes don't be even your ignorance, they just be proud. You can't tell me nothing. That's what said the unjust no shame. You can't tell me what to do. All right. Well, you up there in the spiritual realm, Lord tell you why you up here, this and that, you gonna know. That's why they're telling me that. But hey, that's upon you. So we're gonna end it right here. Because like I said, this was a great number, of great deaths. Rather be 100, 200, whatever the case may be, man, that's a lot of people. If you was just stand in the street and you just see 100 people drop dead, you be like, damn, that's a lot of people over here dead. Right? But we understand it's going to come in a greater fashion. Remember, it said in 1976 when they had that 8.1 earthquake over there in the Philippines, where it said thousands died. So that's just showing you how it can get and how we believe to the spirit that it will be. Right? This is the second Esdras chapter 16, verse 18. It said, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings. Right? And that was a sorrowful period of time. Then they say, well, we're going to do a week of sorrow and mourning and this and that. Great mournings. Why are they mourning? Because people are dying. People's livelihoods are being turned upside down. The things they once can get, they can't get no more. Everything is all bad for them. Right? The beginning of famine and great death. And that was the point why I brought this out. Great death is coming to the world. Why? Because wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and the hurtful works are fulfilled. Therefore, what? Yahweh Shema Shai, he gonna answer you. He gonna pay you back. He gonna bring forward retribution, pay back for your offenses against him. Right? It say first and foremost to you Israelites. It say what? The beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, as we see in the beginning of wars, and the power stand in fear because why? Especially the elites, they know that, and they drawing closer and closer to their end. And then everybody else in fear because, hey, just all these perilous times, evil times coming to the earth. Bad times coming to the earth. Things ain't getting better as they hoping and praying for that it's getting worse and worse and worse. Right? Say the beginning of evils, right? The beginning of bad times. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And we understand that the elect of the nations of Israel are going to do what? They're going to put their trust and their faith in Yahweh Bashim Shai and do all that he commanded them to do to the best of their ability and hopes to be saved. It's a hopes to be preserved from these perilous times and hopes to be for him to be a refuge unto us in the time period that we're approaching. So, ultimately that's really all I got. Just a lesson on these various judgments that's coming to pass each and every day. Every day judgment is being brought forth. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to sincere Akim out there listening. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, the honors of our apostles and elders at Great Millstone who grew well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that's puts this great gospel in sincerity and truth. Shalom, Yasha Allah, Abai, Babal.